generally succession was taken as a timed event. The farm is passed over to the son or the daughter, and it happens kind of over a couple of years. But how it's increasingly been looked at is as a phased event that could happen over 15 or 20 years. And it's not, I suppose, even thinking about it, but it's just consistently reinvesting in your business to, I suppose, have it in as good a state as possible.
This week, we're discussing generational renewal in Irish dairying and the challenges facing young farmers trying to enter and progress within the sector, while also discussing what options are available to farmers who may not have an identified successor. Joining us is Conor Hogan from the GROdairy Project, Generational Renewal Opportunities in Irish Dairy Farm Businesses, a new initiative focused on supporting farm succession, progression and collaboration farming through demonstration farms, peer learning and practical advisory supports. In this episode, we'll discuss the barriers facing young farmers, the role collaborative farming can play in creating viable career pathways, and how the project hopes to support the long-term sustainability and competitiveness of the Irish dairy industry. Can you explain what the GROdairy Project is and why it has come about?
James, I suppose GROdairy for us is around generational renewal, and I suppose the GRO in GROdairy is it stands for generational renewal opportunities, and I suppose for us it's creating the pathways around, I suppose, entry, progression and succession on farms, and what these pathways look like, and I suppose creating the opportunities for us going forward on farms. So like in terms of that generational renewal piece, like we all know that farms are bigger, they're worth more. I suppose the succession challenges, succession is being delayed on many farms. There's fewer children, I suppose, returning to farming full time, and like workload expectations of young people are changing. So through GROdairy, we're hoping to showcase some of these opportunities and particularly look at it from a collaborative farming perspective and the opportunities within them types of models for us to progress and to really give everyone opportunity to progress within the sector.
Why is generational renewal, I suppose, such an important issue for the Irish dairy industry?
I've touched on some of it just there, James, but from a statistics point of view, like we've all heard that challenge that's there in from the numbers that like less than 3% of our dairy farm holders are under 35, average dairy farmer 55, 56. So I suppose there's that age challenge. There's the challenge of the succession planning piece, and what the data is telling us is about half of farmers have a succession plan, have an identified successor, I should say. There's another 50% that don't. Some of them farms will be at succession points and won't be, but there's a big gap there in terms of that piece, and what number of studies have shown across Europe, and Emma Dillon recently published a paper around it, but around the role of youth in terms of innovation, in terms of opportunity, and like when we think about meeting when we think about meeting environmental targets, when we think about meeting economic targets, the role that I suppose young people and innovation can play in that, and in terms of maintaining even the rural Ireland piece and that whole rural development piece, I think we can't underestimate the importance of trying to keep people in rural areas.
You mentioned it there, youth and trying to get young farmers coming through and giving them opportunities to get going. What are the biggest barriers, I suppose, facing these young farmers trying to progress into dairying today?
I think there's probably three or four key ones, James, but the big two really that always come up are around access to land and access to finance. They're the big two, and like realistically, it's access to finance is the biggest one because that's what's potentially unlocking the land piece. Like these are challenges that have been there for a long time now. But are likely to get more challenging. The recent land review report, it suggests that land prices were going to rise by or land prices and rental prices would rise by 4% this year. So like it's shown the I suppose scope of that challenge. Like in terms of so that access to finance is a big one, and how I think the big question there is how the young farmer can build the level of equity that's required to seize the opportunity, whether that's through a lease, whether it's through a type of share farming or contract milking. It I think that's an issue with the models that almost comes at a later date, but it's how to build that finance piece. The other big one, which probably comes on the other side of the equation, like is the lifestyle question, and I suppose the skills question, and particularly with the skills one, I think it's a big one for the young farmer to be honing in on is like generally when we leave when a student leaves an ag college or when they leave university, they're really well versed in the technical stuff, and it's building that experience, and it's building that piece is the next natural step. But the financial, I suppose, the financial skills and the communication skills or the relationship building skills are probably two big ones that I think as a sector we can really hone in on and upskill. And the other big one in terms of facing them barriers is that experience and the mentorship around, I suppose, getting good people around you, working on really good farms that where the farm owner or where the person you're working with, I suppose, has that level of investment in you, and I suppose also feels rewarded by seeing you progress and succeed, hopefully.
You mentioned there some of the key skills young farmers need if they want to build a long-term career. You mentioned ones maybe that are often maybe not thought of first in terms of, the relationship building type skills, the financial skills. Is there opportunities there for potential young farmers maybe to build those skills? Or is there any advice you'd give to any young farmer listeners that's thinking, do you know what, I want to develop a career milking cows?
Well, the first thing I'd say there, James, is to invest in the potential of the opportunities around you in terms of if you're working on that farm, is there scope for me to ask, could I get involved a bit more on that side? Could I see what's happening? Can I see them bits and pieces and maybe understand them that bit better? I think that's the kind of first natural step there. The second thing I'd suggest in terms of our own work and in terms of GROdairy, one of the big pieces is around building that capacity and creating them opportunities to learn these skills. So myself and Paul Maher, who I'm assuming we can leave our emails in the show notes, James, and I
Mm.
suppose any people interested in that, we're building a network of young farmers interested in this space, and I suppose they can get some of that um, expertise through that network. And we also are involved in an EIP called Raise, which will over the next 2 months will be rolling out our initial training program, which will give an opportunity, a 4-day course to I suppose enhance them skills. I think it'll be a fantastic opportunity for anyone on that growth trajectory that wants to invest in themselves to step up that bit further.
Just exactly, I suppose, for our listeners that may be interested in that, just a quick summary of what's involved in that in that training over that 4-day period.
So there'll be 3 contact days involved and another few sessions online, James. The key component is around developing the skills to basically bring together your own cash flow budgets, financial plans, a 5-year business plan. So really the steps that will allow you to progress, and within that financial building piece, there's also the skills around networking, relationship management, um, going to the bank, all of them types of negotiation skills that are required for success as well. So I'm hoping that this course will give a practical kind of outlook of these are the skills and these are how you use them. And I think at the end of the program, we're looking for the cohort of people that are involved to have the knowledge to or to know have an idea of where they're going to go for the next 5 years and be able to make the decision, have a stepped plan. I need to do X, Y, or Z to achieve my goals. I think that would be the key, like that would be the key outcome or the good outcome for everyone.
Yeah, that sounds like a good opportunity for people that are in that space that do want to develop those skills. So
Hmm.
that's the Raise EIP and the training coming on that, Connor. Um, Collaborative farming is obviously, and you mentioned some of the different options. It's obviously central to the project. Just to recap, I suppose, what does collaborative farming actually look like in practice?
On to me, collaborative farming is like in its most basic sense, it's working together. So collaborative farming in theory could be a son or a daughter and a father or mother working together, a registered farm partnership. It could be them traditional type succession situations. But what we're for the purpose of Grow Dairy, what we're generally looking at it as is the outside of the family farm piece. So the farm owner and the opportunity to work with someone who is outside of the family, whether that's through something like share farming, whether it's through a registered farm partnership or whether it's through leasing. I think these are some of the options. And for us, the big point here, I think, is that if you don't have a child or a son or a daughter that's interested in taking over the farm, that I suppose you're maybe at that succession point, that there are options and that there's opportunities to go down, whether and there's it's not simply I lease the farm and I have to go, that there's options to stay involved and have a role, whether that's true, like whether it's still being involved from a labor point of view, whether it's still being involved from a management point of view, that there's opportunities in terms of that input. And
That's an
I
important one, Connor, in the fact that, not everybody, I suppose, that is thinking about taking a step back is maybe ready to fully step away. And some people may be, and there's options there, obviously, in terms of to do that. But some people will want to take a step back, but still have some involvement in the farm and the farming business.
I think it's a huge part of it, James, because there is a massive identity piece in terms of like that farmer who's thinking about these options. They could have farmed there for 50 years. They've probably been there all their life. So it's a big change. And the big point that with all of the collaborative farming arrangements that always comes back is like it's more about finding the right person to work with and then thinking about what model fits
Mhm.
that from, and that could be like the model can be considered from a contractual point of view, a taxation point of view, all of them types of things. But it's the right person is the key thing, and that fit there.
The project includes 7 demonstration farms around the country, of various different collaborative farming setups. What role are these farms going to play, I suppose, over the coming years?
Yeah, the big I think the big goal of this project is around mainstreaming mainstreaming these models. So whether it's leasing, share farming, whatever types of models they are, it's shown that these are the arrangements. This is how they work, and this is how they work. And this is the pros and the cons of each, and I suppose how they're working in practice. I think oftentimes we see the like we hear about these relationships outside of the family, and maybe we hear stories that weren't successful or that where things went wrong. And I think some of the time we can like the array of positives we often don't hear. I think this is about giving kind of clear clear advice on the pathways, and showing how they work in practice, as well as showing like how decisions are made, how I suppose workload is shared, how profit is split, like showing all of them bits and pieces that can support a farmer who's maybe thinking about stepping back, that this could be an option for me.
Yeah, and I suppose showing people the opportunities, but it's really real life examples, isn't it? And hearing from the people that are day in day out working on the farm, involved in the arrangements, and the do's and the don'ts. And in fairness, farmers are very, very good at saying, "Do you know what? This works well, and possibly we had to tweak this or change this." That's all invaluable, isn't it, Connor?
I think so, and like relatively for us, I think you're 100% James, and relatively for us, the models are like these models are relatively new here. So like there are
Mm.
workings out in terms of, do you know, if a lot of the time the farmers that are in these arrangements, if they went back to 3 years or the 2 years to the starting point, there might be things they've done different. So that advice can be like is invaluable for the next person that's thinking about that's thinking about making that decision.
Beyond that technical and financial piece, like how important is the communication and relationship management within these arrangements? Because in some cases, people will have gone from working themselves, managing themselves, to all of a sudden working with one another person or numerous other
Hmm.
people. Um, Cows are often um, relatively straightforward, Connor, when it comes then to dealing with other human beings. How important is that getting that piece right? And
100%, and like people and working with people will always be the most challenging piece of the jigsaw. Like, and if we take these relationships as, or like the collaborative farming as three legs of the stool, we've our technical side, we've our financial side, and we've our communication and relationships piece. Generally, the technical piece to make it happen or to make it work, that has to be there. Like if for like if we're looking at I suppose splitting the pie between two families or two people, the farm is going to have to be technically efficient. You're going to have a good 6 week calving rate, grass utilization, all of that stuff. So that really has to be there. The financial stuff is we've discussed that as a key skill to work on. But the communication piece is like, and I think understanding that relationship at the beginning, and oftentimes it means maybe working on the farm for 6 months or a year, or building an understanding of how I'm going to work with this farmer on both sides, how that works well is absolutely massive. And the big one when it comes to working with a farmer around in a collaborative arrangement, it's having ensuring that you're on the same page around the philosophy kind of piece, and like have you similar attitudes to death, to lifestyle, to cow type. Do you know, all of these
mm,
types of things that have the potential to maybe irk someone or not irk someone, and like finding that way to kind of work together, and like often we would see the young farmer coming at this can be like hugely enthusiastic about what they want to do. They want to change the world. They want to move really quickly. When in reality, the farmer stepping back has been around the block. They might have their own thoughts, their own opinions. So it's finding the middle ground, and it's finding that piece around kind of working together with it.
understanding and managing expectations comes to mind there. It's important. But one thing I want to pick up on there, which I think shouldn't be overlooked, is that technical efficiency side of things. Like these arrangements will obviously be a lot easier, Connor, where the farm is on sound footing, is profitable, is generating a profit, and making sure that that piece is right
Hmm.
obviously helps then with the that whole communication relationship piece. We all know where where that level of efficiency isn't there. And maybe the expectations of margin isn't met. That often would create obviously issues.
I agree fully, James. And there's an array of research out there around what they term as the succession effect, and it's when the farm is in that position where there mightn't be a clear successor available, and maybe the farm goes for 5 or 6 years into a kind of a state of where there's no reinvestment, there's like there mightn't be the same level of motivation, and in terms of like building a collaborative arrangement, or in terms of really just opening up all the opportunity, like whether it's for someone to come home to farm, the importance of maintaining and or improving the farm where possible is huge to that, because like if ultimately if we're looking at a 120 cow farm or a farm of any scale, like you are looking at the idea of two incomes coming from that, or you're looking at the idea of splitting income. So the farm has to be technically efficient to make these relationships happen. And like I can't I don't think we can. I suppose we're probably in many cases we're sick of hearing the point around like maintaining the farm to as high a possible standard, but it plays an absolutely huge role in that whole transition piece.
Yeah, and it's probably even where people maybe aren't at that stage. Connor, you've made a good point there. Um, we do need to be thinking longer term in terms of what are the possibilities and what may come down the track. And existing farmers making sure, I suppose, that they're in the best place to have those opportunities open to them, as you say, with investment and making sure the farm is in a good place. What
The,
advice would you? Sorry,
I'd
Connor. Yeah.
even I'd hone in on that, James. Again, like the what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years around generally succession was taken as a timed event.
Mm.
The farm is passed over to the son or the daughter, and it happens kind of over a couple of years, and it's taken like that. But how it's increasingly been looked at is as a phased event that could happen over 15 or 20 years.
Mm.
That that piece around like, do you know, if a farmer is 50 years of age and their child is maybe 10, that the influence that I suppose maybe investing in some level of facilities, that the farm is A, going to be as profitable as possible, but B, also have as maybe good a lifestyle as possible, that the child who's 10 isn't is looking for the opportunity to go down the yard and is looking at the different the different stuff there. So I don't think we can. Yeah, I think it's a massive one to be thinking about it like, and it's not, I suppose, even thinking about it, but it's just consistently reinvesting in your business to I suppose have it in as good a state as possible.
You give some of it there advice to farmers who know maybe they need to start planning for transition, and it does need to be that long term thing, but they're unsure where to maybe begin. How do farmers, let it be farm owner operators or even potentially new people, how do they engage with the program locally? They're going to hear a lot more about it now, obviously, over the coming weeks and months. But how do they get involved, or if they want advice, how does that actually look?
So over the next few months, that we will start hearing a lot more about this, but there will be opportunities to engage with your local joint program in terms of creating or developing a business plan around each of these three areas that we've discussed, whether it's the succession and the whether it's the farm succession piece, whether it's going down the collaborative farming avenue, or whether it's looking at developing the farm further, or optimizing the business to I suppose ensure succession is an option. So there's going to be the opportunity to engage with your joint program. So I what I'd be suggesting is to stay listening out for that. And I think there's great opportunity for farmers at a local level to kickstart these discussions through them avenues. Um,
So
it's
a
yeah.
lot of the
So
joint development programs between Teagasc and the local co-ops, there is an element of those programs, Connor, that is going to be focusing on what you're saying here, and they're going to have contacts there that you can get in touch with and work on those work on that side of the business.
100%, James, and that'll be available it won't be available in every region, in every co-op region, but it'll be available in the majority. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic opportunity.
Finally, I suppose, what would success look like for the GROdairy project over the next number of years?
I think success for us, um, James, is the big one is mainstreaming the collaborative options. So that there is an option for that a farmer approaching retirement in terms of that succession piece, that there is an option for them, whether that's in terms of a collaborative arrangement, whether it's in terms of standard succession, but that there's options there, and that there's options there at the willingness that they want to step back, so stay involved where they can. I think it's mainstreaming that, and allowing, I suppose, or supporting these arrangements to happen would be a big piece. And on the other hand, looking at the young farmers, I think creating or clarifying the pathways for young farmers to develop, to grow equity, to have clear careers in farming. I think that would be one of the biggest ones for me, because there's a huge amount of people there's a huge amount of people transitioning. I suppose farms transition within the farm family, but we've also got some brilliant stories of people from non-farming backgrounds, maybe from smaller farms, that have built careers in dairy through these pathways, and I think there's scope for much more of that. And if we can, I suppose, showcase these models, if we can show how they work in practice, I think we've got great scope to clarify that for young people, but also to maybe make it that bit easier, because we know the challenges that it isn't easy to build that equity, to build that career there. And I think there are steps, there are skills that I reckon, if we were to ask some of the successful people, if they knew some of the things that they know now when they started 10 years ago, I think there are aspects that they change, or there's aspects that they could maybe allow them to go on that trajectory that bit quicker. So hopefully showing these and giving these opportunities to the young farmer.
Thanks a million, Conor. Look, I think our listeners should look out for the GROdairy project, both nationally over the coming months, and also engage locally where there is the opportunity to do so. It's important to have a conversation on this topic, and the sooner you have it, I would say, the sooner it opens opportunities up and make sure that farms are best prepared as they head into the future. So thanks a million for your time, Conor.
Absolutely, James, and even just before we wrap up, to touch on, like, any young farmer interested in progression that wants to get on one of these on this pathway, I think touching base with myself or Paul Maher working in this area, and we can build, I suppose, you into our networks.
That's it for this week's episode of the Dairy Edge podcast. My thanks to Conor Hogan for joining me on this week's show. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. For more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm James Dunne, and join us next time for your Dairy Edge.